Good morning, and thank you so much for joining us on this amazing spring morning that we've been given. Hopefully, you'll be able to get a chance to get out and enjoy it a little bit. Wanted to remind you of a couple things before we start our service. One is that a week from today is our very first picnic. It's going to be awesome, so don't miss that. And the other thing is right after our service today will be our very short but very important annual meeting. And we're going to have a 5-minute coffee time and then roll right into it. So please stay tuned for that as well. So welcome. Welcome to this congregation where for over half a century now we have been seeking to foster community, to grow our spirits, to serve others, and to work for justice. We're very glad that you have chosen to be here with us in our sacred cyberspace this morning. And we hope that here you will experience love and inspiration and acceptance. After the service, as I mentioned, please stick around for a very short coffee time and then our annual meeting. Our monthly touchstone themes strive to help us shape our days and guide our journey. Our May topic has been acceptance. Acceptance is key to our third principle. Acceptance of one another, not superficially, but in deep ways. The invitation of acceptance is mutual. It confers the gift of belonging in community. It communicates, you matter. This capacity is based on the premise of self-acceptance, to love who you are. Self-acceptance, flaws and all, is the bridge to accepting another. Our sermon this morning is from one of our all-time favorite guest speakers, Emily Quarles-Marrer. She's been speaking here for a number of years now. I'm sure you know her. She's the child of a UU minister and has been preaching sermons of her own since 2006. She currently lives in Gilbertsville, PA, with her husband, her 2 daughters, 4 cats, and 1 very outnumbered dog. The title of her sermon is Everywhere is Walking Distance. One of her favorite posters from the late 1990s features a lone penguin standing on an ice floe with its adorable little wings spread wide. The caption on this poster reads, "Until you spread your wings, you will never know how far you can walk." Some people pity the little penguin, but she sees a message of acceptance. The penguin isn't railing against nature for giving him wings better suited to water than air, but calmly moving forward, eyes toward a distant goal. Just like the penguin, all of us have limitations. Can we, like the penguin, accept the limitations of today and keep walking toward a better tomorrow? We will see. Now, let us enter into worship together. Our amazing musician, Avi Wisnia, has chosen a prelude by Tom Petty.
Well, I started out down a dirty road. I started out all alone, and the sun went down as I crossed that hill, and the town lit up and the world got still. I'm learning to fly, but I ain't got wings. Coming down is the hardest thing. turn, and the rocks might melt, and the sea may burn. I'm learning to fly, but I ain't got wings. Coming down is the hardest thing. Well, some say life will beat you down, break your heart, and steal your crown. So I started out for God knows where. I guess I'll know when I get there. I'm learning to fly, but I ain't got wings. Coming down is the hardest thing. I'm learning to fly, but I ain't got wings. Coming down is the hardest thing. I'm learning to fly around the clouds. What goes up must come down.
Thank you, Avi. I love that song. Please feel free to join me as I read our Chalice Lighting words. We light this flame for those who have been ridiculed, that they may find peace. For those who have fought to marry, that they may celebrate. For those who live in uncertainty in the world, that they may find hope. Our opening words this morning are from Neil Donald Walsh. So long as you are still worried about what others think of you, you are owned by them. Only when you require no approval from outside yourself can you own yourself. Our Director of Religious Exploration, Angela Connon, who's done such an amazing job all year long, and who will be running the show next Sunday for our very last Sunday sermon of the year. So you're not going to want to miss that. She will share her message for all ages.
Good morning, folks. I have a story for us today to go along with our service, which is all about trying to keep going, even though we might not be great at something yet. Our story is called The Magical Yet, and it is by Angela D. Terlizzi with art by Lorena Alvarez. There are days when your dreams haven't come true, or you're upset by the things you can't do. If you've lost or failed or cried just a bit, you're tired of waiting, ready to quit. Like that shiny new bike you couldn't ride, and it didn't matter how hard you tried. You couldn't pedal and you couldn't steer, and you couldn't get that bike into gear. Then when you thought you were right on track, you popped a wheelie and fell on your back. And now you won't ride. No way, not never. No riding for you. You'll walk forever. Don't give up now. There's a major game changer, a most amazing thought rearranger. Someone to show you how good you can get. Now introducing the magical Yet. With this Yet's magic, you can begin to see that you're going beyond where you've been. There are so many things that you've learned to do when you didn't know the Yet was with you. like when you babbled before you could talk, or how you crawled before you could walk. Yet a dreamer, a schemer, a hoper, a trier, a maker, a doer, a gotta fly higher. This yet finds a way, even when you don't, and yet knows you will, even when you think you won't. Like that shiny new bike that you couldn't ride, hop right back on with the yet by your side. Yet doesn't mind warm-ups, fixes and flops, do-overs, redos, stumbles and stops. Yet knows there's mistakes, some big and some small. With yet, you're sure to get over them all. Play the kazoo or play the bassoon, jam with the yet, and you'll soon be in tune. Try skateboarding tricks like the ollie heel flip. This yet can get to the championship. Tongue twisters twisted your tongue in a knot. Yet says, keep trying and practice a lot. Be patient. Yet can't do it all overnight. Some things take days, months, or years to get right. But if you keep leaping, dreaming, wishing, waiting, learning, trying, missing, with the yet as your guide along the way, you'll do all the things you can't do today. Now you're bolder, braver, starting to see. With yet, you can get where you want to be. You finally did it. You knew you could. You're not just riding, you're getting quite good. But don't stop now. You've got so much to do. The good news is, this yet grows with you. So no matter how big or old you may get, you'll never outgrow, you'll never forget. You can always believe in the magic of yet. And that's our story. I hope you feel inspired to keep going with whatever you're trying in your life right now. I am going to keep going with the sourdough bread that I really want to give up on, that I have really wanted to give up on. It's like having a pet. Have you ever made sourdough? It requires a lot of fuss. All right, folks, I will see you next time.
Thank you for sharing that, Angela. I love sourdough bread, so when you get that perfected, let me know. For our interlude, Avi has chosen Go the Distance.
I have often dreamed of a far-off place where a great warm welcome will be waiting for me, where the crowds will cheer when they see my face, and a voice keeps saying, this is where I'm meant to be. I'll be there someday. I can go the distance. I will find my way. If I can be strong, I know every mile will be worth my while. I would go most anywhere to find where I belong. Down an unknown road to embrace my fate. Though the road may wander, it will lead me true. And 1,000 years would be worth the wait. It might take a lifetime, but I know I'll see it through. And I won't look back. I can go the distance and I'll stay on track. No, I won't accept defeat. It's an uphill slope, but I won't lose hope till I go the distance and my journey is complete. I know every mile will be worth my while. I would go most anywhere to find where I belong.
Thank you, Avi. That was really beautiful. For our reading this morning, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Emily Quarles-Marrer.
Good morning, everyone. It's so good to see you all this morning. This morning, I have a meditation from Jeffrey Lockwood. It's from his book, A Guest from the World, and it's a Skinner House. It's UU produced. This essay is called The Labor of Living. In math, I was admonished to show my work. And in English, I had to turn in my rough drafts. As a student, these seemed like perverse requirements. What difference did it make how I arrived at the correct algebraic solution or well-crafted paragraph? Now that I'm a professor, I appreciate the value of seeing the labor that goes into a finished product. A colleague in engineering once told me such an approach smacked of making excuses. In engineering, there is no partial credit. You don't get paid half a contract if you build a bridge that collapses under half of a specific load. Fair enough. There's something to be said for standards. But another reason for seeking the work that went into an essay or a question or an equation is that it tells me what went wrong. If I'm a good enough teacher, I can help the student avoid the error. And what's more, I can see the student's effort and decide how to allocate my time amongst those needing help. It sounds callous, but it's quite the opposite. Witnessing the struggle of my students has deepened my compassion. Early on, as a naive assistant professor, I told my students that I'd match their efforts with my teaching. I imagined that their shortcomings were invariably due to a lack of self-discipline or mental laziness or a failure to devote themselves to scholarship. Often I was right, but in time I learned that when I was wrong, I was tragically wrong. I realized that I will never be able to match the blood, sweat, and tears shed by many of my students in pursuit of learning and life. I've come to know the schizophrenic pupil who managed to learn while his mind wrestled with insane thoughts muffled by psychotropic drugs, and the sleepy-eyed student who was not a wild party animal, but rather a single father nursing his feverish child after the mother walked out on them. A young woman arrived in my classroom late and out of breath, not because she was irresponsible, but because she'd been battling through a heart-pounding anxiety attack that left her gasping for air as she left her apartment. One student who had escaped the suffocating smallness of a rural high school fought down the urge to drown her insecurities in alcohol while holding back tears of frustration with the problems I assigned. Another young scholar had abdominal pains so agonizing that her mind alternated between my reading assignment and thoughts of suicide. She was eventually forced to drop out of school entirely and was later diagnosed with a rare intestinal disorder. What if everybody showed their work? What if I knew how much of a struggle that waitress had gone through during exhausting weeks of relearning how to walk after a stroke? or how much turmoil went into the bookkeeper's efforts to leave her house without checking the door dozens of times in the grip of an obsessive compulsive disorder, or how much gut-wrenching anxiety went into a coworker's battle to begin his day without that pill or powder or injection. You know, I might be willing to give that waitress a generous tip despite mixed up orders, or to overlook a mistyped purchase order, or to wait patiently for a response to an unanswered email. But I have to maintain some standard of performance and adhere to a minimal measure of quality, right? Or maybe, if I knew the labors of others' lives, I'd apply that standard of performance to my own humanity and that measure of quality to my own soul.
Thank you, Emily. Amazing what happens when we love each other. The split plate recipient for the month of May is the Rainbow Room, which is operated by Planned Parenthood in the Doylestown area. It is a support program for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, questioning, asexual, and other sexual minority youth and their allies who are between the ages of 14 and 21. Our very own Rich Kelly has visited the site, and he has reported that they provide a comfy, loving, and safe environment. Both supportive and welcoming, they provide education and advocacy. So please be generous. And as always, you can donate through our website and our e-newsletter, or go old school and mail it in a check to the office. And now Emily will give her sermon, Everywhere is Walking Distance.
Everywhere is walking distance. Well, my husband watches comedy sketches on his phone before bed every night. Usually it's like The Daily Show or Colbert or one of those funny guys at night. And a couple months ago, he was watching Louis Black's sketch that was on The Daily Show. In the skit, Black is a guidance counselor on a Zoom call with a bunch of elementary school kids. And you know, guidance counselors, they tell you what to do with your life and they try to guide you academically. And the first kid says, well, when he grows up, he wants to be president. And Black tells the kid that at the rate we're going, by the time that kid turns 35, the country won't be around to need a president. Find something else to do. The next kid says, oh, she wants to be a veterinarian. Black tells her that she'll never be able to pay off her student debt, so she should consider careers that don't require college, like circus performer. You still work with animals. He tells the kid who wants to be an astronaut that our schools don't provide a good enough math and science education to allow her to qualify for NASA. Maybe she could consider being an usher at a planetarium instead. And the final kid wants to be a mid-level account executive at a marketing firm. And Black says, finally, a kid who knows what it's all about. Louis Black is making it funny, but I feel like this is what people think of acceptance. People think acceptance means killing off your dreams to live in a mediocre reality. And there's a reason acceptance is represented that way. Even though the primary definition of acceptance listed by dictionary.com is neutral, the action of consenting to receive or undertake something offered. The definition that most people associate with acceptance is probably the third one offered, a rather negative willingness to tolerate a difficult or unpleasant situation. And when we hear about acceptance, it is usually in the context of loss or struggle. Therapist Megan Bruno writes in the very first statement of her article for Mind Body Green that acceptance does not mean liking, wanting, choosing, or supporting. She goes on to talk about the negative things that one might have to accept without liking, wanting, choosing, or supporting them, like chronic pain or an injustice that has already occurred. If the only time we come into contact with the concept of acceptance is in times of trouble, well, it would make sense that we link it to negative things. After all, no one ever tells you it's time to face the facts and accept when it's something good. No one says, face the facts. You need to eat that entire pizza and that whole pint of Ben and Jerry's. You just have to face the facts. No one ever says, face the facts. You just won that Powerball. That's not what people say. Face the facts. Face the facts would not be a common phrase if we didn't need the reminder that we have to live with what is rather than what we wish were true. But acceptance is not just for negative things. It's just that we notice ourselves struggling to accept the negative things or the things in our lives that don't fit our worldview. And we tend not to notice that we accept easily the things that are great. I don't have to fight with acceptance over my awesome kids. They're just what happens. That's just my life. So I'd like to thank Noah Rasheta at the Secular Buddhism podcast for providing this next analogy. It's episode 7 if you'd like to listen to him too. Noah puts acceptance this way. He compares life to a game of Tetris. You guys all remember that game, right? So it's a puzzle game and they're like the little shapes and they start at the top of the screen and they slowly fall down. And then you have to kind of turn them around as they fall and try to fit them together in a way that leaves the fewest possible spaces. Now, you don't have control over which shape comes up next. You don't have control over how fast the shapes are falling down. You just have to do your best with the shapes that you get. Well, Noah says acceptance is like seeing the shape that popped up and thinking, okay, this is what I have, this is where it could fit. And he contrasts acceptance with resistance, which he describes as seeing that shape pop up and then cursing at it because it's the wrong shape. It was supposed to be an L. Now, if you want to do well in the game, which approach is going to be more effective? Practicing acceptance can work in interesting ways. My friend is a nurse, and in nursing school, she was taught that it's important to always orient the patient. Make sure the patient knows where they are. Make sure the patient knows who they are. Make sure the patient knows their date. And, you may be familiar with this protocol if you've ever been in a hospital. The nurse will come into you and ask you your name and your birthday, maybe some current events. They want to make sure that you're oriented, that you know what's going on, that you're connected to the same real world as the rest of us. Well, when my friend was in nursing school, she worked as an aide at a hospital. She worked night shifts because it was an easier schedule for her classes. And one night, she came into the shift to find 2 nurses in the room with 1 patient, which, if you know about nursing shortages, they must have been having a problem. There were 2 nurses standing there arguing with this patient, and the patient kept trying to get up and leave the room, but it was bedtime. And the nurses kept saying, no, you have to stay in your bed. You have to go to sleep. Well, this woman was elderly and disoriented, and the nurses were telling her where she was and what was going on, and they were trying valiantly to orient her, to anchor her in reality with them. But she would just tell them that they didn't understand and she had to go. So my friend asked if she could take over, and the exasperated nurses said, go ahead. Well, my friend could see that the nurse's approach was not working. So she sat down and spoke to the patient. And more importantly, she sat down and listened to the patient. The patient didn't know where she was, but she was sure that she needed to be in her room and that this was not her room. So instead of arguing, my friend helped her into the wheeled recliner that was in the room and told her that if she would just recline that seat back and rest, close her eyes and rest, well, she would take her and look for the room for her. So They wheeled out around the ward, and it's a big hospital, so it took them a while to get around. And as they got back to where the patient's room was, she jumped from behind the chair and quickly wrote the patient's name on the blackboard outside, which is something you're not supposed to do, but it was only going to be up for a second, because as she came back and wheeled the patient up, she helped her sit up from the recline and said, "Hey, you know what? I think I see a name on this room. Is that your name?" And the patient looked up and said, oh, that's me. And she said, "Oh, we found your room." And the patient happily wheeled into that room, got into bed, and went to sleep. A tool that many actors use to hone their skills is improvisational comedy. You may be familiar with this concept from comedy shows like Whose Line Is It Anyway, or from workshops you've done. The primary skill of improv, and also one of the most difficult things to master about improv, is the concept of entering someone else's world. The shorthand for this concept is yes and. When you're building a scene and your scene partner does something, you need to commit to that scene with them, say yes, and then you need to build on the scene with them and say and. And then sometimes you're building the scene and your scene partner does something that you weren't expecting, and you think it might be funnier if it were someone else, and it's really hard to keep going. It's hard to say yes and, because what you're thinking to yourself is yes but, or even wait no. But that breaks the scene. But it's great training for life, because in life you don't get to go back and restart the scene if it doesn't unfold the way you expected. You don't get to start over and get what you wanted. You just got to move forward. A few years ago, I heard This American Life about Karen Staubbe and Mondi Carter. It was first aired back in August of 2014. Karen's mother, Virginia, lives with them and has dementia. And Karen and Mondi discovered that using the rules of improv when interacting with Virginia made her life better and made their lives better. Instead of constantly trying to orient her to the same reality that everyone else is in, they accept that her reality and theirs only touch in certain places. And they're able to interact with joy instead of frustration. Now, in a lot of ways, this is easier for Mondi than it is for Karen. Mondi is creating a relationship with a new person. Mondi didn't know her mom all that well to begin with. And when they moved in together, they got to be new people. And he doesn't have to remember her as someone else. But Karen is giving up a relationship. This is a little excerpt from the transcript. So Karen says, "When my mom sits there and she says, 'Strawberries, they just make me think of home.' Well, my mind goes immediately to growing up in Texas and her and I and Dad going out to this huge strawberry field and picking strawberries. And there's this piece that you just go, you gotta let the memory go. Because what you want to say is, oh yeah, I remember. But that's not what she wants to talk about right then. Then you want to go, but what about me? Because you want your own mother to have those memories about you and to talk with you about your shared experiences." And the host then says, but Karen doesn't say the words that she wants to say. She says different words, the words she's supposed to say. And then Karen says, "Really, Mom? Where was it? Was it out by the cemetery?" And her mom says, "Yeah, how'd you know?" And you go on and listen to the story while silently letting go of the memory that came before, letting go of the old scene, and trying to be ready for what comes next. When my own grandmother's mental health started to decline, my mom and my aunt had a really difficult time. They remembered a bright, sharp, funny lady. And when their mama started to forget things, it was really hard for them to let go of who she used to be. Just like those nurses, my mom and my aunt would struggle to orient their mother. No, Mama, it's Wednesday. No, no, Mama, you didn't clean this yet. See, look, it's still dusty. My grandmother heard a lot of no. No, you can't drive your car. No, you can't live alone anymore. No, you're diabetic now. You can't eat sugar. This to my grandmother, who had a whole drawer full of candy right next to the telephone so she could snack while eating with her friends. Like, that was my favorite memory, going to my grandmother's house. The first place you go is the drawer next to the telephone and you pull out a handful of candy. Now, my husband always said he had a really easy time with my grandmother. He would just ask her about her memories and then listen to them. Like Mondi with Virginia, he was creating a relationship with a new person and not simultaneously rebuilding a relationship and mourning a person who is inexorably disappearing. I wish that research on improv had been around to help my mom and my aunt. Sometimes acceptance is just acknowledging someone's reality, even if that reality isn't the same as yours. It sounds like a relatively simple thing to do if you're maybe helping someone in a nursing home or a hospital. It's even fun if you're exploring with your kids, but how do we say yes and when it's not easy to enter someone else's world? How do we say yes and to our political opposites? How do we say yes and to racism and sexism and homophobia, transphobia, and all the isms, all the phobias that crush people? How do we say yes and to the health crisis in India? How do we say yes and to the Uyghur genocide in China? Can we yes and the people who tell us to give up our dreams and just join the circus? Can we say yes and to the voices in our own heads that tell us we're not good enough, or not smart enough, or not thin enough, or not young enough? You know, I've read critiques of the improv world that say yes and is a trap. That because you always have to say yes to the reality of the scene, you give up your agency and are more likely to be taken advantage of. But I disagree with people who think of acceptance as passive, who think that acceptance is saying, oh, just relax, just live with it, just let it happen. Because you can't go through life like that. You can't just give up all your power and call it acceptance. Giving up control of your life, it's not acceptance, it's resignation. And resignation and acceptance are two different things. Resignation is something that happens after acceptance. Resignation is an attitude that you take about the situation you've accepted. If we go back to Tetris, resignation is seeing a shape different from the one you wanted and just letting it fall to the bottom of the screen and not touching it at all. Acknowledging something, especially something hard or painful or something that you've been denying, that doesn't leave you powerless. Back to Tetris again, the yes is just acknowledging that you got a T shape, letting go of the L that you wanted. The and is what you do with the T. As Eckhart Tolle says, accept, then act. Whatever the present moment contains, accept it as if you had chosen it. Always work with it, not against it. Acknowledging a thing, accepting it, is not the same as giving all your power away. It's only by seeing what is really there that we can move forward in a skillful way. It's much harder to end an abusive relationship if you never acknowledge that you're being harmed. It's much harder to claw your way out of debt if you're afraid to look at your credit card statement. And what if you're not even acknowledging that you're afraid of your bank statements? What if you tell yourself you're bored, or you don't have time, or you don't care, or you're not smart enough to do it anyhow? The other day, I had to dig a splinter out of my daughter's toe. She was clenching her fists and tensing up all the muscles in her arms and legs and curling up her toes. "Mom, you're hurting me," she screamed. Sometimes life hurts. Sometimes it hurts to make things better. I told her she needed to breathe through the pain, that all that fighting she was doing was actually making the pain worse and transferring it to places that didn't need to feel it. Sometimes when we resist instead of accept, we're inflicting pain when and where we don't need to. I really struggled with how to define acceptance, but the wording I came to is really that simple. If mindfulness is all about be here now, acceptance is all about saying yes and. When we are practicing acceptance, we say yes. We say, okay. We say, this is what happened. This is what we have to work with. This is where we are right now. And then we have the magic part, the and. The and is the part that says, what is right now is not the way it always has to be. The and is choosing to breathe through the pain of the splinter. The and is choosing to listen compassionately to a loved one who no longer recognizes your face. The and is deciding where to put the block in Tetris. The and is choosing to invest in our country's educational system so that we have future veterinarians and future astronauts. The and is working to make sure that we still have a country when that kid turns 35. Popular business and behavioral science speaker Steve Maraboli says, acceptance makes an incredible fertile soil for the seeds of change. When we say yes and to what the world gives us, we are taking the first steps toward growing a future that will nurture all of us. Because until you spread your wings, you never know how far you can walk. Amen. Blessed be. Shalom, salam, and may your future blossom in unexpected and beautiful ways. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. That was really beautiful. Thanks for sharing that. Yes, and now it is time in our service to lift up one another and fully recognize one another. Let's be fully present and listen with open hearts. If you would like to share a joy or a sorrow, please help us out and click on participants and then click raise hand. It makes the process a lot smoother for everybody. For everyone's benefit, please be brief. Okay. Mary Jane's going old school.
Okay.
Go ahead and unmute.
Okay. I had about a week and a half ago, Janet Welling called, and I could tell by her voice right away that she was very upset because her husband Harold was in the hospital. He had great difficulty, and the doctor wasn't positive about the outcome. Then just a few days ago, yesterday, maybe the day before, whatever, I called Janet to find out how he was. And you can tell so much by a person's voice, how they feel, what's happening. Her voice was wonderful. She was so happy because Harold was going to come home that day. I'm so glad I called them and could be happy with her. That's my happy thought.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that.
Bill.
Bill.
Nancy.
I just wanted to let everybody know that Kessa will be graduating from college tomorrow.
Wow.
Excited about that.
Today.
We can't, oh, today, I'm sorry, it's this afternoon, I forgot. We're very happy about it, but we can't go to see it because only 2 people are allowed. So we'll be watching it on our screen here.
Well, that's great news, and thank goodness for Zoom, huh? Mr. Appleton.
Yeah. What's it under? There, it's under W.
Okay, go ahead, Bill.
Okay. Hey, I'm having shoulder surgery tomorrow, so it's kind of a joy and a slight concern. So I'm just hoping everybody can send their good thoughts and positive vibes to, have me recuperate quick and be, on the mend.
All right, well, we will send you some healing vibes.
Joanne.
Joanne?
Hi. We had a couple of joys. Braden and Avery played their first concert for the school system in person outside yesterday in over a year. And it was amazing to see the kids get to actually perform together as a group. So that was a great joy. And then the other great joy was the night before Aaron and I went to our first live music show in over a year. And it was just so good to hear singer-songwriters up there doing their thing with a live audience and be a part of that live audience. It was just really joyful.
Wow, that's great. Thanks for sharing.
Sure. And Laura's had her hand up a couple of times. I don't know if you've been able to catch it.
Ann Fisher.
Well, let's go with Anne first.
Good morning. 2 joys. Sylvia will be graduating the 24th from college. It's been a long haul this year, particularly, so we're very proud of them. And also I wanted to welcome Mary Ann. I don't know if you guys noticed our visitor, Mary Ann. I spoke to Mary Ann. She's going to be moving to our area shortly and was interested in a UU fellowship, near Levittown. So welcome, Mary Ann. It's great to see your face.
Mary Ann wants to speak.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Mary Ann.
Hi, I'm doing the reverse of what most people do. I'm moving up from Florida to Pennsylvania because I need to be near my sister's family and my sister especially. And I should be moving in a couple of weeks. And I've been attending a UU in Summerfield, Florida for, I guess, 6 years now. And I'm sorry to leave it, but I'm glad I found a UU 5 minutes from me. So I will get involved some, but I am a little bit older and not as swift as I used to be. So I hope to see you. You said that you're closing down. You close down for the summer. You don't have any services.
This is mostly correct. Yes, we're having picnics during the summer. Once in a while, we'll have a special service, but it's a more informal. So yeah, as far as our formal Sunday services, next week is the last one till September.
Okay, but I can still sign in and see what else you're having. Unfortunately, I won't be up there for the picnic on the 23rd, but I have been to Cork Creek Park, so I know where it is, sort of. And I'll just see everybody when I get there.
Well, we will look forward to meeting you, and be sure, if you haven't already, go on our website and sign up for the e-newsletter and
I haven't done that yet.
get
No.
connected that way. That'll be helpful.
And then you can watch the services of this past year.
Yeah, there's a lot of services you can see from the website
Yeah.
for the whole year. So no shortage there.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to moving because this move is very, very stressful. And I got up at 2 o'clock this morning and went back to sleep at 4:30. So I'm a little bit tired right now. But I look forward to the next time I see everybody. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Check in next week though.
Yes, next week, yes.
All righty then.
I don't know what happened to Gloria though. She's not in the picture now.
All right. Well, whether or not you shared today, for your joys, we in this community join you in celebration.
Wait.
What?
Tracy.
Tracy.
Hang on.
Sneaking in under the wire.
What's it under?
It
UUFLB.
says UUFLB.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
You have to unmute yourself.
I just wanted to say that Laura's hand had been up. Laura Weinstein.
Ah,
Okay.
okay, Laura. Where is Laura?
Right there.
Go ahead and speak, Laura.
No, look. Oh, here I am. I wanted to tell you that I had a wonderful time with my son and Eric and Cindy last week. It was beautiful, beautiful traveling. If you have not looked at the sky going south, you don't know what it is. The beauty of the clouds is something unbelievable. Enormous cumulus going way, way back. For about an hour, I was in awe. It is really something beautiful. So if you are not driving and we are going south and the weather is beautiful, get lost in the clouds. You will never forget it. Good to be back though. Thanks a lot.
All right. What about Gloria?
Bye.
All right.
What
Thanks
about
for sharing
Gloria?
that, Laura. I don't see Gloria. So I think we'll move on. What does this mean?
What?
All right. Well, we can speak at our short little coffee hour too. So, whether or not you shared today, for your joys, we in this community join you in celebration. For any sorrows or concerns, may you feel our sympathy and our compassion. Let's pause for just a moment of gratitude, silent meditation, and prayer. For our closing song, Avi has picked one of my favorite hymns, One More Step.
One more step, we will take one more step, till there is peace for us, and everyone will take one more step. One more word, we will say one more word, till every word is heard by everyone. We'll say one more word. One more prayer, we will say one more prayer, till every prayer is shared by everyone. We'll say one more prayer. One more song, we will sing one more song, till every song is sung by everyone. We'll sing one more song. One more step, we will take one more step, till there is peace for us, and everyone will take one more step.
Thank you, Avi. Please feel free to join me as I read our closing words. We have basked in the warmth and beauty of this flame and this community. There are miles behind you and many more ahead. As you journey on toward wholeness, may all that is good and true guide your way. May the joy of love lighten every step, and the miracle that is life be ever in your sight. That concludes our service for today. Please feel free to unmute yourself, and you can enjoy the chat function. And we will have a 5-minute little coffee hour. And then we will go right into our annual meeting.